The keys to my new house felt heavy in my pocket as I stared at my bank account balance. Exactly 742.16. Just yesterday, there had been over $50,000 sitting there, my entire college fund. My hands trembled as I dialed my mother's number. "Mom, what happened to my college fund?" My voice cracked despite my best efforts to stay calm. "Oh, honey, about that." She paused, and I could practically see her nervously twirling her hair. "Your brother needed the money for his new business venture. You know how important this is for the family." I'm Elisa, and this was the moment I realized just how little I meant to my own family. The front door slammed, and my brother Harley's booming voice filled our house. "Hey sis, come check out what your college fund bought." My feet carried me outside before my brain could process what was happening. There, taking up half our driveway, sat a gleaming white boat. Not just any boat, a 35-foot luxury cruiser that probably cost more than most people's yearly salary. "Isn't she beautiful?" Harley ran his hand along the hull, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. "Mom and I figured since you're so good with your money, you can just work your way through college. This investment will pay off way better than some boring degree." "You took my money without asking?" I managed to choke out. "Mom agreed it was the right move," he shrugged. "We're expanding the family entertainment business. This boat will be perfect for luxury tours." My mother appeared beside me, placing her hand on my shoulder. I shrugged it off. "Sweetie, your brother has such a good head for business. This is what's best for everyone." "Everyone except me, you mean?" I stepped back, watching their faces. Neither looked guilty, just mildly annoyed at my reaction. "Don't be dramatic," Harley rolled his eyes. "You can be part of the business, too. Maybe work as a tour guide or something." My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my real estate agent confirming the closing date for the house I'd secretly bought. The house my family had been eyeing for months as the perfect location for their new restaurant. "I need some air," I muttered, walking away as they continued fawning over the boat. I drove to my best friend Philip's house, barely seeing the road through my tears. He opened the door before I could knock, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. "They did it, didn't they?" he asked softly. "They took your college fund?" I nodded against his shoulder. "Bought a stupid boat. Didn't even ask me first." We sat on his porch, and I told him everything. About the boat, about their dismissal of my feelings, about the house I'd purchased with my own savings and investments. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Philip asked, handing me a tissue. "Once you tell them about the house, there's no going back. They need to learn they can't just walk all over me." I wiped my eyes. "I've spent years watching them favor Harley, making excuses for everything he does. Well, now they'll see what it feels like to have their dreams crushed." My phone buzzed again. This time it was my grandmother, Joanna. "Heard about the boat," she said when I answered. "Come over for tea?" "Be there in 20, I replied, grateful for the one family member who always had my back. When I arrived, Grandma Joanna was waiting with fresh cookies and knowing eyes. "Sometimes," she said, sliding a cup of tea across the table, "the best revenge isn't loud and angry. It's quiet and clever." I pulled out the house keys and set them on the table. "Like buying the property they've been dreaming about before they could get their hands on it." A slow smile spread across her face. "Exactly like that." She reached across and squeezed my hand. "You've always been smarter than they gave you credit for, dear." "I'm scared," I admitted, "but I'm also tired of being the family doormat." "Good," she nodded. "Fear means you understand the consequences, but sometimes burning bridges lights the way forward." She took a sip of her tea. "When do you plan to tell them?" I thought about Harley's smug face as he showed off his new boat, about my mother's casual dismissal of my future. "Soon," I said, gripping the house keys tightly. "Very soon." The weight of the keys in my hand felt different now, not heavy with dread, but solid with purpose. My family thought they knew me. thought they could predict my every move. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. 3 years earlier, I'd overheard a conversation that changed everything. I was bringing coffee to my mother's office when Harley's voice drifted through the partially open door. "That property on Marina Drive would be perfect, Mom. We could turn it into the flagship restaurant for our entertainment empire." "It's not for sale yet," my mother replied, "but the owner's getting old. Give it a few years, and we'll make our move." I paused outside, coffee growing cold in my hands. "What about the money?" Harley asked. "We'll need at least $300,000 for the down payment." "Well," my mother's voice dropped lower. "There's always Elisa's college fund. She probably won't need all of it anyway." That night, I opened my first investment account with the $5,000 I'd saved from my part-time job at the library. The memory of that moment played in my mind as I sat across from Philip at our favorite coffee shop, watching him scroll through the photos of my new house. "I still can't believe you pulled this off," he said, shaking his head. 3 years of working 2 jobs, living like a hermit, and investing every penny." "The crypto boom helped," I admitted, stirring my latte. "Getting in early on those tech stocks, too. But mostly it was just," I gestured to my worn sweater and scuffed shoes, "this, living below my means while they all thought I was just bad with money." "Speaking of your family," Philip leaned forward, "your brother's been posting nonstop about that boat on social media. Living the dream and family empire everywhere." I pulled out my phone and showed him Harley's latest post, a photo of him lounging on the boat that my college fund had bought. The caption read, "Big plans coming soon. Watch this space for the next Rogers family venture." "They have no idea you own the house, do they?" Philip asked. "Not yet. I used my grandmother's address for all the paperwork." I smiled, remembering how Joanna had insisted on helping. "The real estate agent thinks I'm an investor looking to preserve the property's historical character." The bell above the coffee shop door chimed, and I instinctively ducked lower in my seat as my mother walked in. She didn't notice us, too absorbed in her phone call. "Yes, we're very interested in the Marina Drive property," she was saying. "As soon as it hits the market, we want first right of refusal." Philip raised an eyebrow at me as my mother ordered her coffee and left, still talking about renovation plans and permits. "You know what's crazy?" I said once she was gone. "If they'd just asked me about the boat, explained their plans, maybe even offered to pay me back, I probably would have helped them. But they just took what was mine, like I didn't matter." "When are you going to tell them?" "I'm waiting for the perfect moment." I pulled out the set of keys I'd received yesterday. "They're having a family dinner next week to discuss their expansion plans. Seems like the right time to drop my own little bombshell." Later that evening, I visited Grandma Joanna again. She was in her garden, tending to her roses, when I arrived. "Your mother called today," she said, pruning shears snipping precisely. She was quite excited about their plans for the Marina Drive property. "Did she mention how they funded Harley's new boat?" Joanna's shears paused mid-cut. "Not a word, but I have ways of finding things out." She turned to face me. "You know, when I was your age, my own brother tried something similar. Convinced our parents to give him my inheritance early for a can't-miss business opportunity." "What happened?" "The business failed, of course," she resumed pruning. "But more importantly, he learned that taking advantage of family has consequences. Sometimes those consequences take years to surface, but they always do." "Did you ever forgive him?" "Eventually, but our relationship was never the same." She set down her shears and took my hands in hers. "Are you prepared for that possibility?" I thought about all the times I'd watched Harley get everything he wanted while I worked and saved. About my mother's constant dismissal of my dreams in favor of his schemes. "I think that relationship changed the moment they stole my future," I said quietly. "Then you're not really destroying anything," Joanna replied, squeezing my hands. "You're just making the truth visible." As I drove home that evening, I passed the Marina Drive property. My property now. The old Victorian house stood proud against the setting sun, its weathered facade hiding secrets just like I did. Soon, very soon, those secrets would come to light. I touched the keys in my pocket and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about taking control of your own story. You should see the plans I've drawn up, Harley announced at breakfast, spreading blueprints across our kitchen table, not caring that his elbow knocked over my coffee. The Marina Drive house will be perfect once we gut it. Main floor restaurant, rooftop bar, maybe even a small music venue in the basement. I dabbed at the coffee stains spreading across my shirt. Sounds expensive. That's the beauty of it, he grinned, completely missing my sarcasm. The old owner doesn't know what they're sitting on. Mom's been watching the property for years. Once it hits the market, we'll swoop in with an offer they can't refuse. And where's this money coming from? I asked, keeping my voice carefully neutral. Since you spent my college fund on the boat? Mom walked in, cutting off any response. Harley, darling, I just got off the phone with the realtor. She says there's been some interest in the property already. I pretended to be absorbed in my phone while they talked, but my ears were burning. What do you mean, interest? Harley's voice rose. It's not even officially listed yet. Apparently someone's been making inquiries, Mom replied, pouring herself coffee. Some investor who wants to preserve the historical character of the building. I bit my lip to hide my smile. Historical character? Harley scoffed. It's just an old house. We need to act fast, Mom. Can we make a preemptive offer? I've tried, but the realtor says the owner's already in talks with this other buyer. Mom sighed. But don't worry, I'm not giving up. I've got another meeting with her today. My phone buzzed. A real call this time, from the same realtor. I excused myself to answer it in the hallway. Ms. Rogers? I wanted to let you know your mother has scheduled another meeting to discuss the Marina Drive property, the realtor whispered. I'm not sure how long I can keep deflecting without revealing you're the buyer. Just hold them off a little longer, I replied quietly. I'm telling them everything next week. Back in the kitchen, Harley was still ranting. This is our future, our empire. Some history buff can't just swoop in and ruin everything. Maybe they have plans too, I suggested, sliding back into my seat. Dreams of their own. What would you know about dreams? Harley sneered. You can barely manage a checking account. Mom placed a hand on his arm. Harley, be nice to your sister. Elisa, why don't you help us brainstorm? You could be part of this too. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Like how I was part of the decision to spend my college fund. That again? Harley rolled his eyes. Get over it already. This is bigger than your community college plans. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I have to get to work. Some of us still have to earn our way. Later that day, Philip met me for lunch at the diner where I worked my second job. I served tables while telling him about the morning's events. They're getting desperate, I said, refilling a customer's coffee. You should have seen Harley's face when Mom mentioned another buyer. Are you having second thoughts? Philip asked between bites of his burger. No, but I leaned against the counter. Sometimes I wonder what Dad would think about all this. Your dad was a good man who believed in hard work and honesty, a voice said behind me. I turned to find Grandma Joanna settling onto a bar stool. He'd be proud of you for standing up for yourself. Grandma, what are you doing here? Can't a grandmother check on her granddaughter? She smiled, but her eyes were serious. Your mother called me, trying to see if I'd help finance their restaurant plans. My stomach dropped. What did you say? I told her I'd think about it. Joanna stirred sugar into her coffee. Didn't mention I've already invested in a different project. She winked at me. The family dinner's in 3 days, I said quietly. Everything's going to change. Change isn't always bad, dear. Joanna reached across the counter and squeezed my hand. Sometimes it's necessary. After my shift, I drove past the Marina Drive house again. A sold sign had appeared in the window. My realtor's way of telling me the sale was officially recorded. In less than 72 hours, I'd tell my family that their dreams of an entertainment empire had been built on quicksand. My phone buzzed with a text from Harley. Family meeting tonight. Emergency strategy session about Marina Drive. Be there or prove you don't care about this family. I typed back, wouldn't miss it for the world. Sometimes the hardest part of revenge isn't the planning or the execution. It's maintaining your poker face while watching your targets walk straight into the trap they've set for themselves. The emergency family meeting turned out to be exactly what I expected. Harley pacing the living room, waving his arms as he ranted about the Marina Drive property slipping through his fingers. We need to pool all our resources, he declared. Mom's savings, my boat revenue, maybe even take out a loan. The boat's making revenue already? I asked innocently. It's only been a week. Harley shot me a dark look. I've got 3 tours booked for next month. That's not the point. The point is, Mom interjected, we need to show we're serious buyers. Elisa, honey, do you have any savings you could contribute? The irony was almost too much. You mean, besides my college fund? An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Mom shifted in her seat while Harley's jaw clenched. I think I'll make some tea, Mom said, escaping to the kitchen. As soon as she left, Harley rounded on me. Would you stop with the guilt trips? This is exactly why we didn't consult you about the boat. You're so small-minded. Small-minded? I stood up. Is that what you call wanting an education? Education? He laughed. While I'm building an empire, you're stuck waiting tables and shelving books. Face it, sis. You're going nowhere. I grabbed my keys. I need some air. Running away again? Harley called after me. Typical Elisa, always too weak to face reality. I drove straight to Grandma Joanna's house, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. She opened the door before I could knock, one look at my face telling her everything she needed to know. Come help me with these photo albums, she said, leading me to her study. I've been meaning to organize them. We sat on the floor, surrounded by old photographs. She handed me one showing my father standing proudly in front of his first hardware store. Your father built that business from nothing, she said softly. No shortcuts, no stepping on others, just hard work and integrity. Harley says I'm going nowhere, I whispered, tracing Dad's smile in the photo. Harley, Joanna said firmly, doesn't know the difference between noise and progress. She pulled out another photo, me at 16, accepting a math competition trophy. You've always been the quiet achiever, just like your father. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Please come home. We need to discuss this as a family. They want me to contribute my savings to their restaurant plan, I told Joanna. She raised an eyebrow. The savings they don't know about? For the property you already own? The very same. I showed her Harley's latest social media post. Another photo of the boat with the caption, Big moves coming soon. Watch this space. Harsh family empire. Shish, success. Your brother, Joanna said carefully, reminds me of those peacocks in the zoo. All show, no substance. She patted my hand. But you, my dear, are an owl. Quiet, watchful, and far wiser than anyone suspects. My phone buzzed again, this time from Philip. Heads up. Your brother's at the diner asking questions about your work schedule and tips. Think he's trying to figure out how much money you have. They're getting desperate, I told Joanna, showing her the message. Good, she replied, surprising me. Let them squirm a bit. They need to learn that actions have consequences. When I finally returned home, Mom was waiting up. Sweetie, I know we hurt you with the college fund situation, she began. Do you? I interrupted. Because it seems like you and Harley have it all figured out. The boat, the restaurant, the family empire. Where do I fit in any of that? You could manage the restaurant. She brightened. You're good with numbers. And stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. You don't get to decide my future anymore. I headed upstairs, but her voice followed me. The family dinner's tomorrow night. Please come. Harley has some big announcements. Oh, I'll be there, I muttered under my breath. touching the house keys in my pocket, with some announcements of my own. In my room, I pulled out the property deed and laid it on my desk. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, they'd learn that the quiet daughter they'd dismissed had outmaneuvered them all. My phone lit up with one final text from Grandma Joanna. Remember, dear, the best revenge isn't just about winning. It's about standing up for what's right. Sleep well. Tomorrow you take back your power. I touched the deed one last time before turning out the light. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. The family dinner started exactly as I expected, with Harley commanding everyone's attention. Mom had prepared his favorite lasagna, and Grandma Joanna sat across from me, her eyes twinkling with anticipation. Before we eat, Harley announced, standing and raising his glass, I have some exciting news. Despite some complications with our original property plans, I've secured a meeting with potential investors for our restaurant venture. That's wonderful, darling, Mom beamed. When? Next week. They're very interested in our vision. He smiled smugly. Of course, it would be better if we had the Marina Drive location locked down, but we'll figure something out. Actually, I set down my fork, my heart pounding. I have some news about that. Not now, Elisa. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Let your brother finish. No, I said firmly, pulling out the property deed from my bag. I think you'll want to hear this. The room fell silent as I placed the document on the table. Harley's face scrunched in confusion as he leaned forward to read it. What is this? He asked, his voice suddenly uncertain. The deed to 1247 Marina Drive, I replied calmly. My property. Mom's wine glass slipped from her hand, spilling red across the white tablecloth. What? I'm the investor your realtor's been talking to, I continued, watching their faces. I bought it last week. It's mine. Harley snatched up the deed, his hands shaking. This is impossible. You don't have this kind of money. I did, actually. 3 years of savings, smart investments, and 2 jobs. I turned to Mom. Turns out I'm better with money than you thought. Harley's face turned red. You did this on purpose. You knew we wanted that property. Like you knew I wanted to go to college, I shot back. Funny how that works. Elisa, Mom's voice quavered. Surely we can work something out. We're family. Family? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Was it family when you took my college fund without asking? When you dismissed my dreams because they didn't fit into Harley's grand plans? You ungrateful little... Harley started to rise, but Grandma Joanna's voice cut through the tension. Sit down, Harley. Her tone left no room for argument. I think it's time everyone here learned a lesson about consequences. You knew about this? Mom turned to her mother, betrayal written across her face. I did. Joanna took a sip of her wine, and I helped her. Someone had to stand up for what's right. This isn't right, Harley slammed his fist on the table. This is sabotage. You've ruined everything. No, I stood up slowly. I took control of my own future. Something you two taught me to do, actually, by showing me exactly how it feels to have someone else decide your fate. We can offer you money, Mom said desperately, more than you paid for it. It's not for sale. I picked up the deed. I have my own plans for the property. What plans? Harley sneered. A library? A study hall? Actually, I'm turning it into a community education center, with affordable classes, workshops, and yes, a library. I smiled. Not everyone can afford to have their college fund turned into a boat. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom stared at her spilled wine. Harley's face cycled through shades of red, and Grandma Joanna looked proudly in my direction. You've changed, Mom finally whispered. No, I corrected her. I just stopped letting you ignore who I've always been. Harley stormed out, the front door slamming behind him. Mom started to cry quietly, dabbing at her eyes with her napkin. Well? Grandma Joanna stood up, gathering her purse. I think that's enough excitement for one evening. Elisa, dear, would you walk me to my car? Outside, the night air was cool on my flushed face. Joanna hugged me tightly. You did well, she said. It's not easy standing up to family, but sometimes it's necessary. What happens now? I asked, suddenly feeling the weight of everything. Now? She smiled. Now you build something meaningful, something that helps others avoid the position you were in. She squeezed my hand. Your father would be so proud. As I watched her drive away, I heard the front door open behind me. Mom stood there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. We really hurt you, didn't we? She said softly. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I don't know how to fix this, she admitted. Maybe, I replied. You should stop trying to fix things and start listening instead. I walked to my car, leaving her in the doorway. Tomorrow would bring more drama, more accusations, more attempts to change my mind. But for now, I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about finally standing up for yourself. The morning after the revelation, I arrived at work to find Harley waiting outside the library. He was wearing his best suit, the one he saved for impressing investors. We need to talk, he said, following me through the staff entrance. I'm working, Harley. I started sorting returns onto my cart. I'll make this quick. He straightened his tie. Name your price for the property. I pushed my cart between the shelves, methodically replacing books. It's not for sale. Don't be childish. He grabbed a book from my cart, holding it hostage. This little revenge plot was cute, but it's time to be realistic. You're not really going to waste that property on an education center, are you? Waste? I snatched the book back. Like you wasted my college fund? That was an investment. So is this. I turned to face him. But my investment will help people, not just feed your ego. His face darkened. Mom's devastated, you know. She barely slept last night. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Did she cry as much as I did when I found out my future had been stolen? I talked to some lawyers this morning. He switched tactics, voice dropping low. There might be grounds to challenge the sale. Given that you used Mom's address initially. Actually, I cut him off, I used Grandma's address. Everything's legal and properly documented. But nice try. He grabbed my arm as I tried to move past him. You're making a huge mistake. Is there a problem here? My supervisor appeared at the end of the aisle, frowning. No problem. I pulled free. My brother was just leaving. Later that day, Mom showed up at my second job at the diner. She sat at the counter, ordering nothing, just watching me work. Can I get you something? I finally asked during a lull. Remember when you were little, she said, ignoring my question, and you used to play restaurant with your toy cash register? You were always so good with numbers. Mom, you could still be part of the family business, she pressed. We could work together, make it something special. Like you made my college fund into something special? I started wiping down the counter, needing to keep my hands busy. I made a mistake, she admitted quietly. We both did. But this revenge, it's not you, Elisa. You don't know me, Mom. I stopped wiping. That's the whole problem. My phone buzzed. A text from Philip. Heads up. Harley's posting about fraudulent property sales on social media. Mom saw my expression change as I read the message. He's just hurt, she defended quickly. We all are. Hurt? I laughed bitterly. He's trying to destroy my reputation because he can't handle losing. He's your brother. And I was your daughter. The words exploded out louder than intended, drawing stares from nearby customers. I lowered my voice. I was your daughter, but you treated me like an ATM for Harley's dreams. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. I need to get back to work. That evening, I met Grandma Joanna at the Marina Drive house. We walked through the empty rooms, our footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. Harley's getting desperate, I told her, showing her his social media posts. Of course he is, she replied, running her hand along an antique banister. He's never had to face consequences before. Mom came to the diner today, tried to convince me to sell. And I almost felt bad, until I saw Harley's posts. Joanna stopped at a window, looking out at the garden. Your father built his first store in a building like this. Everyone told him it was too old, too much work, but he saw the potential. She turned to me. What do you see when you look at this place? I gazed around the room, seeing past the peeling wallpaper and dusty corners. I see second chances, for people who need education but can't afford traditional college, for kids who need a quiet place to study, for anyone who's been told their dreams don't matter. Then hold on to that vision, she said firmly, because the next few days are going to get worse before they get better. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Philip. Your brother just showed up at my place looking for dirt on your finances. He's really losing it. Let him look, I said, showing Joanna the message. Everything I did was legal and above board, unlike some people's business practices. Joanna squeezed my shoulder. Sometimes the hardest part of standing your ground isn't the initial fight. It's weathering the storm that follows. I touched the wall of what would soon be a classroom. Then let it storm. The final showdown happened on a Sunday evening, exactly 1 week after my revelation at the family dinner. Mom had insisted on another family meeting, this time at the Marina Drive house itself. I arrived to find Harley's new boat conspicuously parked in the driveway, blocking my usual spot. Inside, Mom and Harley were already waiting with Grandma Joanna. The empty rooms amplified every sound, making the tension feel even heavier. Nice of you to join us, Harley said, his smile not reaching his eyes. I've been doing some research about this place. Have you? I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. The foundation needs work. Electrical's not up to code. Plumbing's ancient. He pulled out a stack of papers. Getting this place ready for your little education center would cost a fortune. I know, I replied calmly. I had it inspected before I bought it. Then you know it's not feasible, Mom jumped in. Honey, be reasonable. Sell it to us, and we'll give you enough to go to any college you want. With what money? I asked. The boat's not exactly bringing in millions, is it? Harley's face reddened. That's none of your business. Actually, Grandma Joanna spoke up, I'd like to know too. How are those tours going, Harley? He shifted uncomfortably. We've had some cancellations. Temporary setback. All of them? I pulled out my phone, showing a screenshot. Because according to your booking site, you haven't had a single customer. You're tracking my business? He sputtered. No, I'm tracking what happened to my college fund. I turned to Mom. Did you know he's already trying to sell the boat? Listed it yesterday for half what you paid. Mom's face went pale. Harley, is this true? I can explain. Like you explained how taking my college fund was for the good of the family, I cut in. Face it, Harley. Your empire is built on stolen dreams and empty promises. He lunged forward suddenly, grabbing my arm. You think you're so smart, don't you? Little Miss Perfect, with her secret investments and clever plans? Let go of her. Grandma Joanna's voice cracked like a whip. Or what? Harley sneered, but his grip loosened. Going to cut me out of the will, too? Actually, Joanna pulled out her own stack of papers. I've already revised my estate plans. The money I'd set aside for the restaurant? It's going to Elisa's education center instead. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom sank onto a dusty windowsill, while Harley's face went from red to white. You can't do that, he whispered. I already have. Joanna moved to stand beside me. Because unlike some people, I believe in investing in dreams that help others, not just ourselves. This isn't fair. Harley kicked an empty paint can, sending it clattering across the floor. Everything was perfect until you ruined it. Perfect? I laughed incredulously. You stole my future. We borrowed it, he shouted back. Without asking, without caring, just like you've always done, taking whatever you want because Mom taught you that you deserved it. Enough! Mom stood up, tears streaming down her face. Just enough. She turned to Harley. Is it true about the boat? His silence was answer enough. I trusted you, she whispered. I let you convince me that taking Elisa's money was the right thing to do. Mom, no. She held up her hand. I've been blind. To so many things. She turned to me, including the damage I've done to you. I felt tears pricking at my eyes but forced them back. It's a little late for that realization. I know. She picked up her purse. But maybe it's not too late to start making things right. She headed for the door, then paused. Harley, I want the boat sold by the end of the week. And Elisa? She met my eyes. I hope someday you can forgive me for failing you. After she left, Harley stood there, deflated and defeated. You've destroyed everything. No, I replied quietly. You did that yourself. I just refuse to be collateral damage anymore. He stormed out, the front door slamming behind him. The sound echoed through the empty house, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Grandma Joanna wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Well, that was quite a performance. Did I do the right thing? I asked, suddenly uncertain. The right thing isn't always the easy thing, she replied. But standing up for yourself? That's always right. Through the window, I watched Harley's boat pull away, a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in our family. But around me stood the walls of everything that could go right, a place of learning, of second chances, of dreams rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. The morning of the education center's opening day, I stood in what used to be the master bedroom, now transformed into a computer lab. Philip was setting up the last of the workstations while Grandma Joanna arranged flowers on the front desk. First student arrives in an hour, Philip said, checking his watch. Nervous? Before I could answer, a knock at the door made us all turn. Mom stood in the doorway, holding a small package. I wasn't sure if I should come, she said softly. But you did, I replied, watching her take in the changes we'd made to the house. She walked slowly through the room, running her hand along one of the new desks. It's beautiful. Nothing like what Harley planned, but better. Have you heard from him? I asked, though I already knew the answer from social media. He'd moved to Florida, supposedly to expand his business opportunities. He's avoiding my calls. She set the package down. The boat sold last week. I wanted you to have this. She pushed the package toward me. Inside was a check, for exactly the amount of my original college fund. Mom, please, she interrupted. I know it doesn't fix everything, but it's a start. I studied her face, seeing for the first time the toll the past months had taken. The proud, dismissive woman who had always sided with Harley was gone, replaced by someone who looked tired, real. I can't accept this, I said, pushing the check back. Elisa, please. No, Mom, listen. I gestured around the room. Look at what I built without it. Without you or Harley. I needed to know I could do that. A small group of people appeared in the doorway, our first prospective students, early for orientation. Philip quickly went to greet them while Joanna busied herself with last-minute adjustments. Then what can I do? Mom asked, her voice barely a whisper. You could stay? I surprised myself by saying. See what your daughter actually built, instead of what your son promised to build. She nodded, wiping away tears. I'd like that. The orientation room filled quickly. Single parents looking for better opportunities, teenagers who couldn't afford a traditional college, older adults seeking career changes. Each face told a story of dreams deferred but not abandoned. I stepped up to the podium, my prepared speech forgotten as I looked at the crowd. My mother sat in the back row, next to Grandma Joanna. Philip gave me a thumbs up from his spot by the door. Welcome to Second Chances Education Center, I began. This place exists because I believe everyone deserves the opportunity to pursue their dreams. regardless of their circumstances or what others think is possible. As I spoke, I saw my mother crying quietly in her seat, but for once, her tears didn't make me feel guilty or angry. They felt like recognition of what I'd achieved, of who I'd become despite everything. After the orientation, as the last students filed out with their registration packets, Mom approached me again. "What you said about second chances," she hesitated. "Does that apply to mothers too?" I thought about all the anger I'd carried, all the hurt and betrayal. But I also thought about the strength I'd found because of it. "There's an adult education class starting next week," I said finally. "Basic business accounting. Maybe you could sit in, see what it's like to build something legitimate." She smiled, a real smile, not the indulgent one she used to give me. "I'd like that." As she left, Philip and Joanna joined me at the front desk. "Well?" Philip asked. "How does it feel?" I looked around at what we'd created, not just classrooms and computers, but a space where dreams wouldn't be stolen or dismissed, where people like me could find their power. "It feels like winning," I said, "but not the way I expected." "The best victories rarely are what we expect," Joanna said, hugging me. "They're better." Through the window, I could see my mother getting into her car. She paused, looking back at the house, not with regret for what could have been, but with something that looked like pride. For the first time, I realized that maybe the best revenge wasn't about making others lose, but about showing them a better way to win. "Ready to start teaching?" Philip asked, handing me the day's schedule. I took one last look around the room, at the dreams we'd build, the lives we'd change, the future we'd shape. Ready. Sometimes the hardest lessons teach us the most important truths: that our worth isn't determined by those who dismiss us, that our dreams don't need anyone else's permission to grow, and that the best revenge is simply becoming exactly who we were meant to be.